Have you ever been burned by a friend, betrayed, had your trust broken, and deeply hurt? I know I sure have. That's going to be our topic of conversation today. Stay tuned to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. I'm continuing on with my series of I Have No Friends, and today is the third video in that series. We're talking about being betrayed by a dear, close, and best friend. Being burned by a friend typically means experiencing a deep betrayal, being hurt by someone that you were really close to. And this can manifest itself in many various ways. So let's talk about those ways. Some of those ways are, well, of course, betrayal of your trust, abandonment and let down, taken advantage of, or a one-sided relationship where you're giving everything you have and they're not giving anything back. Being burned by a friend can give you a sense of loss and disappointment and really scare you off of ever trying to be a friend to someone again. It can really make a mark on you. I have experienced this myself, and I'll share a story in this video, and probably most all of you have as well. Trust is central to any deep friendship. And when that trust is broken, when you are betrayed, it's almost impossible to rebuild that trust. I guess someone could if both parties really wanted to work on it, but as far as I'm concerned, I would be done. I don't believe I could ever trust that person again. In fact, I know I couldn't. Let's talk about red flags. I think we all get them, but we just don't want to face them. We don't want to think something bad or negative about a close or best friend, but we have to pay attention to those red flags. That's our warning sign. When someone becomes manipulative in their behavior, they take advantage of your kindness. They're exposing themselves, that they're not the friend you thought they were. I don't think we should make a quick judgment, but we also can't make excuses. That's only going to lead us down the wrong path, and we're going to be let down in a big way. So when this fallout happens, how do you handle it? What do you do? Do you try to rebuild the relationship? Do you have a discussion with the person? Well, maybe some people would. I couldn't. I'm just straight up telling you, I couldn't. Once my trust is broken, that's it. I'm done. I could never go back. I couldn't rebuild. I couldn't even have the discussion with the person. It would just be over for me. Now, I'm not saying that's right, but I'm telling you that is how I feel. Being burned by a close friend, it can change you for life. I mean, that may sound dramatic, but that's what I believe. Because you're afraid to go out there, to put yourself out there, and to let other people in. So we may be denying ourselves the opportunity to have a great friendship that could be right in front of our face, but we're so closed off, we can't open ourselves up to it. I guess the best thing to do, at least in my opinion, is learn from the experience. It definitely will make you more discerning when you're seeking a friendship. You also may have more boundaries in place and set up more expectations. And there's nothing wrong with that. We have to protect ourselves. can we ever have another close, intimate friend, a best friend again? Sure we can, but only by reflecting on what went wrong, where we went wrong. Did we ignore those red flags? Did we trust a person that really was not deserving of our trust? Did we give it enough time before we really opened ourselves up? You know, there's a saying, when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. And I do. So if somebody shows me before our friendship gets on solid ground that they're not trustworthy, I'm going to believe them and I don't want to get involved. It's just too painful, causes too much drama, and who needs that in our lives, especially in our senior years at this age? I know I don't need it, and you probably don't either. Now, I said I would share a story in this video of a very deep betrayal, one that hurt me to my core. I was only 18 years old at the time. I'm 73 now, and it still hurts me. It left a mark on me that I don't feel will ever go away. I got married at 18. My first husband was 21. 3 months after we were married, I became pregnant. Well, I had like 4 girls, like bridesmaids, in my wedding, and they weren't like best friends, but they were good friends. You know, I knew them in high school. So one of them said, well, I'll come down and stay with you the last 2 weeks of your pregnancy, you know, before the due date. I can help you out, you know, do some things, and we can spend some time together, which I thought was so kind. I was so young, so dumb. We lived in North Carolina and my family lived in Pennsylvania, so I had no family around, no friends at all, and this sounded like a godsend to me. So she flew down and she stayed with us for 2 weeks. Well, about, I'd say 5 days after she came down, I went into labor and went in the hospital. Now, back then, you were in the hospital 7 days, not like overnight like it is today. And my first child had jaundice, so I wasn't leaving the hospital until she could leave the hospital. So I'm in the hospital for a week, come back, and of course she's still there. While I was gone, she was, you know, taking care of the little apartment we had and cleaning and cooking the meals for my husband and things like that. And I thought that was wonderful. Well, the second night I was back, my then husband, who suffered from guilt deeply, told me that my friend, my good friend, who was in my wedding and came down to stay with me to help me out, they were sleeping together the whole time I was in the hospital, 7 days. Oh my gosh, just talking about it still brings back memories that I don't even want to look at. Being as young as I was so hurt. I had never heard of things like this. I led a very sheltered life. So I've never heard another friend say that happened to them. It was just mind-blowing to me. Well, needless to say, I freaked out and of course kicked her out of my house, and never to see her or hear from her again. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not blaming it all on her. It takes two. And my first husband, who was married to me, and I was having our first child, he cheated on me. He broke my trust. He betrayed me. That there's no question of. But for some reason, it hurt me far more that I was betrayed by a good friend. Why did that hurt me more than what he did? I still don't know the answer to that. Again, maybe because I was so young. But there was no comparison to the hurt. It was a different kind of hurt. Maybe somewhere in my head I thought, well, that's to be expected by a guy, or I don't know what I thought. But when you have a close friend, your girlfriend, you don't expect that. That's not something that would ever enter your mind. Here I am thinking, what a wonderful friend she is. She took time out of her life to fly to North Carolina and spend 2 weeks with me to help me before I went into the hospital and then after I got home with a brand new baby. And of course at 18, I wouldn't have known what I was doing. And she was the same age as me, so she wouldn't have known either. But you just have that support system. Ironically, both of us had the same birthday, May 12, 1951. Oh my, this is really difficult to discuss. And if any of you have ever been through such a betrayal as that, well, I don't want to say please share it in the comments section because it may be too painful for you to share something like that. Now, there are many kinds of betrayals, and like I said, I have other ones, but this was the ultimate one for me, and that's the story I wanted to share with you. Now, I don't feel like I ever walked around throughout life thinking that any best friend or good friend I would have would sleep with my husband. Well, first of all, my first husband and I were divorced 12 years after that incident. But it's just not something that ever concerned me in the future. I definitely learned a lesson from it. But I think it's held me back from having a close friend or best friend because of betrayal in general. That was the deepest hurt I had ever experienced. Maybe there's even deeper hurts or things that hurt just as much, and somehow I don't want to feel them. I don't want to know what they are because that was enough for me to mark me for life. Now, maybe it's because I was so young. I couldn't process it. Who was I going to talk to about it? I didn't have any friends to talk to. And it's not something you want to share with your parents or your siblings, especially back then when we were more guarded. We weren't open like we can be today. So I just wanted to share that with you to explain what a deep betrayal was for me. And I'm sorry if any of you have ever had to go through that. So in summing up, being hurt and betrayed by a friend can be devastating. But I think it's good to be able to talk about it. I haven't talked about that story. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I've ever told anyone. I might have told 1 or 2 people over the many years, but generally it's not something I would talk about. I just felt it was important because of this conversation. We've all been hurt in so many different ways. We've all been burned by a friend. Does that mean we should never trust a friend again? I hope not, because we may miss out on such a blessing, such a beautiful friendship, a gift that God has waiting for us. So that's all I have to say about it. I would love to know your thoughts, how you feel, if you've ever been burned, and did it leave a mark on you for life, or were you able to overcome it and give someone else a chance? Give friendship another try. Please let me know in the comments section. Now I'm going to leave you with an inside beauty tip. My inside beauty tip today comes from Psalms 55, 12 through 14. If an enemy were insulting me, I could endure it. If a foe were rising against me, I could hide. But it is you, a man like myself, my companion, my close friend, with whom I once enjoyed sweet fellowship at the house of God, as we walked about among the worshipers. Now this verse was talking about the psalmist, who's believed to be David, and how he was betrayed, not by an enemy, but by a dear friend, someone he was close to. So I wanted to use that scripture because it kind of ties in with how I feel and probably how we all feel. You know, you can expect an enemy, someone you don't trust, you're not close to betray you or harm you or hurt you or talk behind your back or use you and all the things. But you don't expect that from a close friend. It just doesn't happen that way. But yet, it does, and it can. The pain of this kind of betrayal or being burned by a friend is both emotional and spiritual. It's like a wound to the soul. That is so difficult to reconcile in your head. At least it is for me. There is such deep anguish that comes from the bond that you have with a close friend. And it can take a long time to get some healing in your heart. Now, we can't control others' actions or how they behave, but we can control ourselves. If someone has burned you in a relationship, that's on them. That's something they have to live with and deal with. But don't let it affect you in such a negative way like it so easily can. It doesn't have to change who we are as a person, the kind of friend we are willing to be, the vows of that sacred friendship you have that you're not going to break. They mean that much to you. So don't let someone else's behavior change you. Even if you've been burned, if you get an opportunity to have that dear, close, best friend, take it. I thank you so much for being here today. I truly do appreciate it. And until we meet again, this is the old girl signing out. See ya.